to you all. I hope that you're well. My name is Isabella Akiteng, and I will be hosting today's show. A special shout out to all Christians out there who started Lent. I hope that it's going well. At times, the first week just doesn't be going, but I hope that it's going well. And so today on our show, we are going to be discussing women's perspectives on balance, rest, and healing. And yes, many of you might be asking, do I need balance? Am I sick that I need healing? Do I need rest? Yeah, so today I'm joined by two amazing women who are going to be exploring this conversation with me. And maybe, just maybe at the end of the show, it will be a much needed, set of and piece of information that the Women's Show brings to you. And so joining me on the show is Miss Lawino, all the way from Safe Spaces, Uganda. And then also joining me is Rebecca Karagwa, who is, yes, a fiery feminist, but also a lawyer.
Thank you.
And yes, and we shall be discussing our women's perspectives on healing, on balance, and on rest. And so, ladies, you're very much welcome to the show. And to start us off, I hope, should I call you Lawino or should I call you your botanical name?
Lawino,
Angela.
Whichever is
Okay.
fine.
You know, there's also a politics in names.
Yeah.
So there are some people who just do not want to be associated with this Muzungu name, because Muzungu name is a reminder of a lot of colonization. But yes, but Angela, you work with Safe Spaces, and you do quite a bit of work around healing and self-care. And so for the woman who is out there, I don't even know. Your definitions are okay, but usually when we start this conversation, there's a lot of guardedness. And the guardedness is normal because, yes, it's a conversation that touches the very core of who we are. And we do not want to be the women who are unbalanced. We don't want to be the women who are not healed. We don't want to be the women who are. And so there's a lot of guards that go up as soon as this discussion comes up. And so my first question to you is, what are some of these normalized ways that we have been raised as women to not really recognize, and yet those are some of the things that cause us to have the much needed conversation around balance, around healing, and around rest?
So my name is Angella Lawino. Once again, I am a psychologist. I work with Safe Places Uganda. And when we look at healing and just balance and rest and how women have been called to perceive these things, many times we look at what society expects women to be, because many times the perceptions we have on things have been built by society, by community, by the people that have come before us. So when we look at, specifically when we come down to women, we are looking at a group of people that has been told what are you doing resting? Sometimes I can be sleeping and my mom is like, Mwana wage, get up.
Yes.
Or it's when everyone else in the house is sick and so is the mother, you have to get up and take care of everyone else. When you're not feeling well and everyone else is okay, you have to get up and take care of things, because apparently if you don't, then things will not move.
The world will stop.
Yeah, the world will stop, apparently. So I think that is one of the major ways in which we have been called to underlook our rest, underlook our balance, underlook our healing journey. It's that you have to keep moving, you have to keep working, you have to keep on doing these things. And yet sometimes you actually need to take a breather and just allow someone else to go ahead and you take the back seat. But as women, we have been called to just keep moving, keep working. If you're sick, you keep on. And you hear stories from like our mothers, our grandmothers, and it's always, no, a woman does not fall sick. I don't know if you guys have heard those things, but it's, a woman does not fall sick. What do you mean you're sick? You have to get up, you're in bed resting. It's like, no. So who will? And even me at my age, I'm not married, I have no children, but it will be a constant reminder of, no, you can't be resting, because if you rest, then these other things. What are you going to do when you get married? What are you going to do when you have children? Are you going to keep on until these things? So for me, I think that's the major one. It's just we've been kind of made to feel like you have to keep going, you have to keep working. There's no time for you to stop, there's no time for you to pause. And when you pause, there's a certain perception that you get. When you say, you know what, I'm taking a bit of time for myself, I'm going to take my kids and put them somewhere, or put them somewhere, not somewhere bad, but like I'm going to take them to my mother's, maybe to their grandparents' home, so that I can get some time for myself. And it's looked at as, so you're not being a present mother, you are not taking care of your children, and yet you just need maybe a weekend, maybe a day for yourself. And yeah, I think that's the one that I'll go with, the major one.
Okay, thank you very much. Karagwa, you are a feminist, and one of the most popular one of the popular statements within the space of rest, you know, and the space of healing, is that rest is resistance, you know. Can you speak more to that, especially within the context that that Angela has provided for us, that for any woman who is watching, how does rest become resistance? Because rest under normal circumstances is a state of not being. It's a state of, you know. So yes.
Thank you, Isabella and Lawino. So, of course, why rest is resistance and political, and coming from the feminist side of it, is we try to resist against systems or that have conditioned how we perceive things, and also inform, for example, tradition, like Lawino rightly stated. So in our traditions, and but also now the systems that condition these traditions, such as capitalism, they have taught us what being productive means, and but also how even this capitalism feeds also into systems like the school, how like education system. So in school, we also know we have to be productive. I mean, it's constantly defined for us, and also that brings into the fact of time, and we have statements like time is money. So now, because we're coming from that whole conditioning of I have to be productive, I have to be working, I have to be seen to be doing things that society has told me to be doing. So feminists are saying rest is resistance, because we are saying that no, we are worthy, we are enough, we're still being productive, even when we are not doing those things that society expects us to be doing. So if I'm saying like I want to take my children to their grandmothers, or I do not want to care for them in this weekend, I'm not a failed mother. I'm only saying I matter, or myself. I have to first care for myself before I can now fit into the larger community. So I think feminists are coming from that angle of there's all these systems in which we operate, the patriarchy, capitalism, and they have defined for us production and time and everything. And we're saying no, we can actually redefine and reimagine our own realities. Yeah.
And you know, when you state it like that, I'm reminded of I don't know whether the two of you have had a chance to read the book Building Organizations with Soul. Okay. So in Building Organizations with Soul, the book starts with a conversation between a young and older woman. So it's between a conversation between Hope Chigudu, who you probably know, and is one of us. She's in the spaces of Uganda, and then a younger feminist called Rudo Chigudu. I mean, Rudo, Hope Chigudu, and then Rudo, And they're having a conversation, and Hope is saying, we need to rest. We must politicize rest. And Rudo is saying, but do we have the luxury, you know, to rest? So yes, we are having these conversations and saying, yeah, rest is resistance and things like that. But when push comes to shove, does the woman who is watching, do we who are seated here have the luxury to rest, especially in a fast-paced society like ours? Okay, we who do deep feminist work know that every day there's a woman being raped. Every day Like, do you have time to say that today I will not show up for this woman because I am resting? You know, when you talk about care duty, do you have the luxury as a woman in this society to say that I will not perform my care duty because I need to rest? And what are some of the and what are some of the prices we pay that hold us back from, you know, from doing that? So those are about three. That's about three in one questions. But yes, Angela, do you want to go first?
I think I really loved something that Karagwa said, which was just talking about how rest is saying that, you know what, I matter regardless of what these systems are saying. And it's reminding yourself that, say, self-care, rest, finding healing for yourself, because these are all parts that encompass self-care. It's telling yourself that when I participate in an activity that is part of self-care, I am telling myself that I am acknowledging myself as a person. I am kind of getting into sync with my presence, with my energy, with who I am, right? And it's not just moving and then forgetting that you yourself are a person. You yourself have things that hurt you. You yourself have things that put you down, right? So even when it comes to going out, and because as a feminist, as a human rights person, as someone who is fighting for people who are not able to fight for themselves, it's very easy for you to feel like if I take a pause, then someone is having their things violated, and that's because of me. But it's important for you to realize that, well, if you're not there completely, the things continue to happen. But if you take a pause, you're able to kind of pause, get back into a space that you need to be in, and then continue with it. I think it's like looking at it like, let's say you work yourself in this system. You work yourself, you do as much as possible, but then you have a breakdown. So now, because you have worked yourself for so long, you've had a breakdown, and that breakdown has put you down for maybe 6 months. As opposed to saying, you know what, yes, I have this work to do, but every Sunday I take a pause. Every Sunday I just use that time to breathe for myself, to ask myself, how are you feeling? How have the things that you have encountered affected you? So for example, if you are going out and the people that you are fighting for, the voiceless person that you are speaking for is children that are victims of sexual abuse, or other women that are victims of sexual abuse, you're listening to so much that has the ability to break you, right? So are you in sync of what the things that you have had, the experiences that you have encountered, are you in sync of what they have done to you? And are you able to take a moment to just come back and say, okay, so this week has been heavy. How have I protected myself this week? Have I allowed some of these things to come on, to kind of take root in me and affect me? And if the answer is yes, then it's, what do I need to do now? Do I need to take a breather and just help myself, right? Because even in the field of psychology, there's something that we have to protect ourselves from, which is transference. It's very easy for me to come and speak to you, Isabella, and from having a conversation with you of the things that you're going through, I begin to struggle because of the things you're struggling with. So it's very important for me as well to have an avenue that I go to, and I kind of, I don't want to call it declutter, but I kind of just release. And that's what it can look like even for people in feminist spaces. And you ask so many questions. Does the woman out there watching this have the luxury? I think, you see, in life, you just have to accept that when you pick up certain things, you're going to lose certain things, right? So if you decide that in a capitalistic, fast-moving society, fast-moving country, fast-moving economy, you're going to take pauses. You need to be able to be comfortable with the fact that you might not be able to achieve as much, right? Someone who has said, you know what, for me, there's no rest. I have to work and work and work. And this person gets up at 3 a.m. and probably sleeps at midnight. And, they're just moving. They're going at all times. There's no way. There could be a way, but the chances are very slim of someone else who starts work at 9 a.m., finishes at 5 p.m., and for them, that is it. And between the day, between 1 and 2, they have a rest. You can't compare the two. For this person, they have decided to let go of one thing in order to pursue one thing. And on this side, you have decided to let go of one thing to pursue another thing. So you need to be able to tell yourself, because I have let go of this, because I have decided to prioritize my this, then there's something I'm going to lose. There's something that I might not be able to get. But it's also asking yourself, I usually tell people to ask themselves, what does success look like to you?
Yeah.
Because you might be picking up someone else's definition of success. When someone says, for me, if I have this many cars and this house and everyone around you is just on how much money they want in their account and stuff like that, and then you pick that up as a definition of success, you might struggle a bit if internally and intrinsically that is not your definition of success. There are people that have gotten to places where they're comfortable enough and they're like, listen, all I need to be able to do is to have a nice apartment, to have a car that's moving, that's not breaking down on the road. And it does not have to be a car that costs 500 million. It can be a car that costs 50. Is it comfortable? Is it good? They have said, this is what success looks like to me. And I'm going to pursue success in these avenues. It's having healthy relationships. It's having a job, that pays well, that can sustain me. And it does not have to be that I have 900 million in my savings account and apartments across Kampala and things like that. So you just define for yourself what that looks like.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, do you want to catch on? Yes.
So I just wanted to, first of all, say for me, in response to the questions, that what could help us is building communities in our organizing. Because I can't be the only one serving raped women. But also, a community means that when I need rest or I cannot provide for myself, my sisters can provide for me in the feminist movement, or siblings Now, I also want to say that I don't think it's true that when we choose rest, we're actually losing out. Because for me that would mean that then capitalism actually meets our needs or expectations or our levels of success. If anything, for me, it's that capitalism exploits us. If I work hard in 24 hours, I'm up 22 hours. It doesn't guarantee that I'll actually have the many millions of money, or I'll have the many cars, or I'll attain my level of success. If anything, it really, really dehumanizes us, and we are bad providing labor to systems that don't pay us in equal measure what we are putting out.
True.
So I think for me, it's true that for the start, it can look like it's a privileged thing to choose rest. But I also want to think that that's how we change systems. If everyone in this country is aware about, like, they have knowledge and resistance, and we all decide to say we can actually resist and rest, and all rest, and so I think that way we're able to challenge the employment laws, or if they're saying come in Monday to Friday, but all of us have taken a stand and said we are choosing rest, and they could say maybe 3 days a week, and your salary is not affected. But I think what capitalism has also done is to keep us in that constant fear of, I'll be jobless, I will not, I have to constantly work to earn, which is not true. And if we actually have strong communities in our organizing, we're able to challenge these strongly and deeply rooted systems. But I also wanted to say that
Yes.
I will get back to that.
Okay, and I know that there are people who are watching who must be saying, work 3 days a week? What is that? And it's possible. It's possible because we know organizations in this country that are working 3 days a week. Okay, like 3 days physically in office a week, and for the other 2 days you have the option to work remotely. So I think people choose 3 days in the week, so you can choose Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday you can either choose to work at your home, you can choose to travel up country and work from there. And it's possible, but again, like Karagwa said, there's the capitalist imprisonment that we are in that does not allow us to even consider the possibility that it's possible.
Can I just
to work?
chip in?
Yes,
I
please.
think
Yes, Angela.
that is, it's like, it's like what should be, right? It's what should be. But many times we find ourselves in, yes, let's do this, let's stand up. And then if you actually ask people, you find, guys, let's prioritize rest, let's do this. And everyone is like, yeah, we really need to rest and da. And then you find that in actual practice of it, you're alone.
Yes.
So when it comes to like building that thing of saying, let us get together and do this. I have a friend, she's a lawyer as well. And for her, she set that boundary for herself. Spoke to her bosses about it of, I don't work on weekends unless it's an emergency. I don't pick up work calls after 6 p.m. I don't set that boundary properly. But now in her law firm, she's like the only one who does it. She's the only one who at 5 p.m. is picking up her bag to get out, because everyone else stays in office until 9 p.m. And I have 2 friends who work at that same law firm. So you ask her, oh, how is your week? She's like, oh, good. Got home at the time that I wanted. And then you ask this other one and he's like, oh, it's fine. I'm about to just start sleeping in office. So you find that they're just 2 different people. And they both say, man, we need to rest. We need to rest. But in the practice of it, it's like, yes.
I just want to add a bit to that and say that it goes back to, for me, community and organizing. The reason that you're going to find yourself alone in this conversation or in the actual practice of I want to take the rest is because, again, the capitalism, we're conditioned to be the ones who, like in the workspace, there's a lot of politics, for example. So people want to be, I want to be liked by the ED. Yes. So if Miss Akiteng is the ED and she calls me in the weekend, I want to pick up because I want to be the good girl. So there's that.
When a promotion comes up, I want to be the one.
Yes, we are hoping that she'll pick on me first if I do that. And that means I cannot efficiently build community with other people. And so if we really go back to like from the start and say, we cannot look at ourselves as just like how do I profit off this? But how do we move together forward? Like how do we grow as a community? Then that makes it easy. But unless we unlearn that conditioning of I have to survive, and I think of course capitalism is achieving its intentions because it's about I. So there's no sense of community, and in any work, that's why in the workplace, not many people are willing to come out boldly and say, for me, I'm choosing grace because. Who are you?
Who are you? Who are you? But also there are the risks because you are alone. Then as a lone wolf, yes, you're probably more prone to attack. But coming back to the conversation around care, okay, and we'll come back to the solutions. But just before that thought runs off, the conversation around care. So we talked about how society has constructed that this is a duty of ours and things like that. And yet recently I came across a statement because someone it was a statement and someone said people who are natural carers usually do it as a trauma response.
I want to can I speak to that?
Yes, please.
You can go first. It's okay.
So I think there is truth, but also it's not entirely true in that statement. Because to say that to be a natural carer for it to be a trauma response means that I have suffered something,
Yes.
and as a result of that pain, I don't want people to actually experience it, so I'll care for them. It's true. Sometimes it happens, but there's also people who are naturally wired that way, and they would actually care, and they don't have like a terrible story behind why they do what they do. And so maybe bringing that to the conversation, I think that and usually when people are actually carrying out of that trauma that they haven't processed, and like they haven't seen a therapist to say, how do I heal? Usually it's we practice things like love bombing, like or now
suffocation,
if it's like
with love.
You know, because it's not genuine. It comes from a place of lack in the first. So I think that we can be able to determine which care is actually genuine, which care is out of that place, and how do we deal with it. And I also know that if we do that, then we're able to not exploit people who are in that state. We can see a therapist and then like come back and love me, but in a
healthier
way.
Yeah,
in a healthier way. Yeah, like don't love bombing because, you know.
I agree completely with what she's saying, but I think a statement like that can easily be flipped around.
Yeah.
So we have people who also say, you know, as women, you're not naturally a natural. It's just what you have been programmed to think that you are. But it's also possible for someone to not be a natural as a trauma response, right? So because these statements, it's very easy for them to be flipped around and to also go against the person who is saying them as a way to kind of advocate for this thing. So I think it's something that can happen, but it's also not that everyone who does it is doing it as a reaction to this. So it's important to be able to distinguish the two of, are you doing this because as a trauma response of, as she said, you didn't have, and so you do it so much for people. And sometimes it's also that you didn't receive, and so you do it so much so that people can love you. You were not loved, so you think that if I do this, then I will be loved back. And many times you can see how this person reacts to them not receiving what they expected to receive. So for someone who is doing it out of just, that's how I am, right? Because there are people who grow up in very loving homes, that very loving and nurturing homes, that for them, being a loving and nurturing person it just flows, because that is what they have seen. Then there's someone who didn't get it, and when they do it, they want love back. For this person, it's just, I don't know anything else. For this one, it's, if I do it, I'm going to get this back. But then when they do not get what they're expecting to get, then there's a whole breakdown there. There's a whole unmet expectations. There's a whole struggle with the relationship. Well, for this person, it's it's like, you know, nothing much to eat, right?
Yes. We will be fine. Yes. Okay, so at this point in the conversation, there's probably two emerging themes. The first one is care, healing, and rest from a place of community. But I believe that even before we get to the place of community, there's care, healing, and rest from the individual. Okay, so is it possible for us to explore what care, healing, and rest looks like practically from an individual perspective? And when we look at the individual perspective, as individuals, I think they're about, my head can't count, but there are spaces from which this would apply. One is in the personal space. So what does care, rest, and healing look like in your personal private space? What does care, healing, and rest look like within the space of broader family? Because all of us come from families, and families can be a point of, hey, yes. And then also, and as an individual, what does this look like, especially for people who work, you know, be it an activist or not? Like, what does it look like for you to be able to take care of yourself within a workspace? And of course, there are utopian situations, and then we have the actual situation, you know. So how do we help, or how do we support our siblings who are watching to be able to rest, to be able to heal from a very personal place? I don't know which of you would want to take it on first.
I could go first.
Okay.
All right. From a very personal experience, but also as activists and and how we organize. For me, rest means that I can choose, for example, not to engage in a conversation. If because I and other sisters, for example, are very keen on many things, but let me give an example: manners. But it's not every day that I'll see a man and call it out, because sometimes I'm not in the right headspace to do that. And I trust that there's so many other women who call out that man. It can't only be me.
A what? Sorry,
a mano. Those panels that have only men.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Those ones.
It also, for me, it means having health, like genuine conversations with people. So because sometimes when we love people, we fear to hurt them with the truth, but we can package our truth in a way that doesn't hurt. So I would say maybe I can't hold space for you now, and I can recommend someone else. Doesn't mean I've stopped being your friend, or no, I'm not a good sister. But
I just can't.
I just cannot. So but also, and you talked about family. She knows my mom. Yeah, so we like, my mom is open to conversations. Like, you can say, this I don't like, this I like. She enables that kind of a health space. She also raises us to be independent. Like, you don't have to, you don't have to conform to situations. Like, who are you? What informs your beliefs? And they'll support you. Like, you can be supported to be who you are as an individual. Yeah, so that for now.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back to workspace stuff. But yes.
I think as an individual, I think something that really helps when it comes to care is just pause. Like, sometimes it's just okay for you to pause. You don't have to be doing something all the time. I don't know if you've had conversations with people and someone's like, okay, so what are you up to now?
Yes.
And when you say nothing, it's like,
and then you're judged.
You're very unserious.
Yes.
You lack ambition.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like, I remember when I left my previous job, I was just so tired of it. And my mom asked me, so what are you going? I said, nothing. So are you looking? No,
I'm just here.
Nothing.
Yes.
So how? Nothing. And it was a very weird time, because she just could not, for the life of her, understand how someone wakes up one day and says, Mommy, I'm going to put a resignation letter in for my... She just could not. And then it became, but your generation, I don't understand it. And so sometimes it's just okay to pause. And but not just a reckless pause, because there are some people who just take reckless pauses. It's, what is the purpose of the pause?
Yeah.
Is the purpose of the pause rest? Are you intending to just have a pause where you know nothing, you are doing nothing, and then eventually you will come up with a strategy? Or are you pausing to kind of re-strategize? So in the season of pausing, are you sitting down and saying, okay, so what do I want to do next? Where do I want to go next? And you are using that time to kind of get back to the things that matter to you. So saying, I'm going to take a pause, but I'm taking a pause for this reason. Even if it's just an aimless pause, let it be branded as it's an aimless pause.
Yes, right? No one is expecting anything.
Don't expect anything. After the 3 months of my pause, don't come and ask me, so what growth? No, there's no growth here. It's just nothing. Sleep, watch movies, something. Then I think another thing is just acknowledging where you are failing. I think something we struggle with is being able to get up and say, you know what, especially if you are, let me say, in a feminist space, sometimes it can be hard for you to get up and say, okay, so I'm really struggling being in this space. Not because it's toxic or anything like that, but because it's weighing heavily on you, and being able to admit that you're struggling. Well, I think that goes to vulnerability. Being able to be vulnerable enough to say, this, I don't think I can be in this anymore as actively as I was before. I can do it in the background, but I don't think I can do it to the extent that I'm expected to do it in the foreground anymore. And you give yourself some time. If it's maybe I just need a year, maybe I need 2 years, maybe I need 6 months, and you allow yourself to be able to say, I am struggling at this moment. And I think that's something that we struggle with in terms of just wanting to be able to keep moving, keep achieving, keep going, even as a feminist, even where you know that rest is important, even where you know I am doing this because communism, capitalism, because capitalism, like even when you know that the only reason I'm doing this is because money has to be made and things like that, sometimes it can be so hard for you to kind of take your foot off and just admit that you're struggling because bills need to be paid and stuff like that. So being able to just be vulnerable enough to get to a place to say, you know what, it's not working anymore. I'm not okay, and I need time. I need help. I need assistance. I need a hand. I need all of that, and that goes back to community that Karagwa had mentioned, of where you know that if I have no money to buy food, I can call my sister and she'll be able to help me, to support me, and to support me without judgment, to support me without saying, okay, so I've sent. But when are you going to get a job?
You know, just sit there. Being serious.
I've sent, but you can't really just be there asking people for money all the time. You're able to have a community that says, I understand where you are right now, and this is how long I can support you for. Because also being able to understand that some people cannot support you for a whole year. So if someone is like, you know what, I understand where you are, and I can come and support you for maybe 2 weeks, but after that it would become a bit of so much for me. So you know that this person has seen you, has had you, has felt you for 2 weeks. And when it ceases, you don't get offended by it. You're able to sit back and appreciate that this person had me for 2 weeks. And now I have to find another place to feed. But yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes.
I just wanted to add really something small. But can we not talk about the...
Yeah, we can.
Oh, Angie, I was going to say that also, for example, in the workspace, I think it's also possible for people to say, I cannot do this work, but this person can do it. And when we go back to community, you also have to have the sense that since she couldn't do her work and she said I could do it, I'll give her part of it, because that way we sustain each other, we sustain one another. Yeah, and how do you talk about, and also maybe declining opportunities, because we know, again, we have to earn and pay bills.
Yes,
but you can't go for every opportunity. You can't say, I'll go for every interview, I'll go for every show, I'll go for, no, that you end up,
you're not Jesus.
So you can
when Jesus rested. Yes, but more importantly, and when we have this conversation, we say you can't do this, there'll always be a couple of responses that say, but the organization, but my boss, but my supervisor. And so for women who are watching, or for people who are watching, that either have a duty of care in terms of, you know, overseeing people, you know, either as managers or as leaders, or as business owners or as heads of institutions. What are some of, should I say, the policies, the structures that can be put in place to ensure that rest, that healing, that balance happens? But also, maybe before we get into that, when we come to the workspace, for people who are in workspaces, how do you recognize, you know, because again, it's only when you pay attention to this that you would be able to recognize that someone has burnt out. But how do we recognize that the people in our midst are in need of healing, that they are out of balance, that they are overwhelmed. You know, how do we recognize that someone is not lazy, you know, but they're genuinely overwhelmed? Yes.
I just want to say that first, that element is greatly lacking in most of these work environments. First, there is things like okay, I don't want to say boundaries, but it comes off in that sense. Like, so work is work.
Yes.
Your employer or your manager doesn't care about your, because they want to say personal issues. And so if you have an issue like, the things they understand is maybe a sick leave or
a maternity leave,
and why you just go to the HR and say, here are my papers, and I'm going, like that which is recognized.
Yes.
And so that shared humanity is greatly lacking in the workplaces. And I understand because it can be abused. But I believe in constantly teaching.
Yeah.
I believe that we, instead of having meetings, or sometimes people we have like prayer, we pray just for the sake of it. We're not even intentional about it. Or we have meetings, so are also only focusing work on how much are we delivering, but not on people's wellness. There's a problem. So I think we have to begin by saying our managers or MDs or EDs, all these employers, these companies, are they aware that there's actually need for these conversations? And maybe for us to have policies, first is teaching these people to realize, because also I don't want to entirely blame them. It's a system.
Yes, it's a system.
We are conditioned that way. So for someone to even realize this, it's going to take a lot of learning. So I think we have to be interested in teaching people, helping them to come back and say, let's get back to the core of who we are, as opposed to ticking or being as proper as the capitalists are really defined for us. So I think for me, teaching, and then when people have actually realized the need, then we can have policies that integrate these the conversation we're having here today, like rest or mental health. Sometimes people think mental health, like what's that? Or you're being too, again, now for some of our generations, they say, hey, but too lazy, or too privileged, and or too spoiled, or so they don't understand. Like what I think about mental health, you have in Uganda cheje. So but for us to put those things aside, is people have to really understand, and which only comes if they can learn.
Okay, thank you.
I think when it comes to recognition, I think sometimes we need to be aware of just changes in people. Because if I have been sitting next to Karagwa since the beginning of the year, and now Karagwa has never come into office late. She's always in office by like 7:30. All of a sudden, she's coming into office at 9. All of a sudden, she's struggling to meet deadlines. All of a sudden, she's in office, but she's not in office. All of a sudden, her work is sloppy.
Yes.
It was never before. So being able to see that there's something that has changed about this person, because those are things that will either tell you that this person is struggling on an individual level, or this person is tired and is failing to balance their life, is failing to find a sort of middle ground where they make the things that are outside of work. Yeah. So being able to notice, and what that calls for us to become then is to kind of get involved with the person next to us, and not just come into work and then this person is just someone you meet at work. So you don't care about them other than work. I don't care about you other than, have you done the work that I asked you to do last night? I don't care about you other than that. I was speaking to someone and they were sharing with me about how they had an employer who would constantly say, we're a family. If you have a challenge, share it. Don't be afraid. We take care of each other and all of that. So she had work that they sent her over the weekend, and she was not able to do it because they got a family crisis. And when she informs, he first shouts at her that the work has not been done. And then she's like, but you're the same person
So
who
we are
said,
family.
when when we have this, we inform. But I have informed, and yet
this
still,
is
this is the
implication.
response. So that goes to show, when I have something going on that is affecting my quality, my productivity at work, I can't even share it with you, because it will be rubbished. It's not, your work comes first. And I think that is the biggest challenge. It's first tell me, have we achieved? Then tell me your problems. Yeah. So if we have not achieved, don't tell me your problems. If we have achieved, then
you can tell me.
add,
Yes, very conditional.
It's, oh my God, yes, I did the work. Here it is. But you won't believe what happened over there. But it's not. I was not able to do the work because no, you've already ended it. You were not able to do the work. So being able to have a heart that hears, first of all, it's like Karagwa said, coming back to the human part of it all. At the end of the day, you need to realize that your employees are human beings. That means they're going to have days where they wake up and they just want the world to crash around them. There are going to be days when they're going to wake up and they're going to come in and be as productive as possible. But what systems do you have in place to hold this person even when they're not feeling fine? Because I could come into office in a season where I'm struggling, and I can give office maybe 4 hours of productivity.
All that. There are days when I've given less, but yes.
But you get, like, I can come in and I can be as productive as possible in that time. But after that, my brain will just, because I'm not in a good space, I cannot go longer. So what can you do for me to kind of accommodate me or hold me during that time? Because you need to realize that where someone is struggling, productivity is going to go down. So if you're not supporting this person, then do not expect productivity. Either you're going to spend so much work on a task that could be done in one day, or even just an hour. You're spending maybe 5 hours doing that one task. That is low productivity. So having systems that hold people even when they are struggling, where maybe someone can work from home, maybe someone's workload is reduced during that season and things like that. I went into the solutions.
Yes, you went into the solution. And I don't know that you have any other solutions to throw in.
To have a mental health specialist in the workplace, aside the HR, because non-HRs are really, like, they don't have that training to be to do the work.
But HRs are also, okay, I'm not like speaking badly about HRs, but I feel like an HR is for the company. So the decisions that they'll make are for the company. At the end of the day, they're going to be asked, so did you cause us a loss or a profit?
Yes.
And then she has to answer, I actually caused you guys a loss because I allowed, all the things to happen, right?
Yes.
So having someone outside, but Karagwa can speak on that more. It was her point. I'm sorry.
Yes, having someone outside work, maybe you can support them, because also, like, seeing a therapist is very expensive. So we can't just tell people to go and see a therapist. So I think what organizations or companies can do is to pay for their employees, like to have that allowance. You can see a therapist as and when you want to see them. Yeah, it could make a huge difference.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay, and then finally, my last question for the day is, when some people talk about healing, especially in regard to rest and in regard to our mental wellness, it sounds like you're telling someone to heal from malaria. Okay, that if you take these tablets, after 3 days, your fever will break, and then there'll be no malaria in your system. And yet that may not be the case because of how life is. Okay, so as we close the show, what are some of those habits? What are some of those things that we can do so that we are on a continuous journey of wellness, a continuous journey of rest, and a continuous journey of healing?
I think for me, first is to acquaint ourselves with information, and to understand that healing is not something very sweet and enjoyable. it's a journey that is difficult in my understanding, and it does not happen like you rightly, stated. Like malaria is this medicine, and after a week or 3 days you'll be fine. But now, when we have that information, then we prepare ourselves to say, I can walk the journey. I can acknowledge. I can feel the heart. I can feel the pain. I can have this awareness of whatever is not right, and then I can say, what steps can I take to becoming a healthier person? What can I integrate into my daily life to change where I'm at now? And so for me, really, it's about the willingness to walk the journey, to know that it won't be easy, but I'm willing.
Worth it,
Yes, and I think for me, back to organizing as activists and feminists, is that have a community, like have a sisterhood, have siblings that you can share with, and they can walk this journey with you. And
Okay, thank you. Angela.
Thank you. I think I'll start off with her point as well. It's growing pains. Healing is not easy. You find that you've gotten into this journey of healing, prioritizing yourself, making decisions that first and foremostly make sure that you're in a good place, and then you can extend it as well. You find that there are relationships that are going to break. You find that there are people that are just going to refuse. They're not even going to attempt, they're just going to refuse to listen to the boundaries that you're setting. They're going to refuse to adhere to them. They're just going to refuse. So you have to be ready to know that there are things that you're going to have to lose that probably you thought you would have forever. But another thing is, I kind of mentioned it, is setting boundaries. Boundaries are not there to kind of make you the most difficult person to live with, but they're there to help you, to protect you, because you find that when you do not have boundaries, whatever comes, whatever goes. Someone can just come and treat you like a doormat, and because you are not able to set boundaries, you're not able to instill these boundaries and make sure that they are working for you. People are just treating you the way that they want to treat you. And that means you're not protecting yourself. That means someone could come and deliberately hurt you today, and they'll come back tomorrow and do the same thing, and you will still be okay with it because you're not able to protect yourself. I think the other thing is being patient with yourself. Sometimes we're not patient with ourselves in terms of the things that we want to see come out of us. And that means you're rushing a process that would probably need more time. And because of that, you're not resting. And I think that's where that also comes in. Especially if you look at people who are like millennials, you have friends, you finished school together, you graduated together, and this person, you're not looking at the fact that this person probably had a hand supporting them to get them to where they are. But you didn't have that hand. But you're kind of comparing yourself with this person who had a stepping stone. And now you are rushing to achieve something that realistically you cannot achieve while prioritizing the things that you need to prioritize as a person in the same, like at the same time. So you're not resting because you want to achieve things that take a bit longer to achieve. So being patient with yourself, being patient with the things that you want to get, as long as you're putting your best foot forward, trusting that things will come, things will work out. So put your best foot forward, do your best, but look at you, think of yourself as well. Are you managing your emotions? Are you resting? Are you having a support group? Are you actively participating in your community? Because you can be in a community but just not participating in the community. So even when you need support from the community, people don't know your name.
They don't know you. Yes.
They're in the WhatsApp group, but they don't know you. Right?
They don't.
So actively participating in that community and seeking out help. We struggle to seek out help and to accept help. You want to do everything on your own. You want to show that you have it figured out. So sometimes it's okay for you to say, I don't. So I'm going to ask someone to help me. And that's okay, you know?
Okay. So thank you very much, ladies. Thank you very much for joining us. And to the audience, I hope that this has been a session that has been quite eye-opening for you. I want to believe that Safe Spaces has services for walk-in clients.
Yes.
And so in the event that you actually need this much needed help, go to Safe Spaces. If you're wondering where to get them, send a message to us on the Women's Show, and we should be able to get you in touch with them. But from us to you, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to having you next week back here on the show discussing another interesting subject. Thank you.